Limbo Lodge by Joan Aiken, Chapter 12. In the morning, Dido thought that perhaps it had been a dream about Mordreda. It seemed too improbable to be real. But sometime, she thought, I'll ask Auntie Tara all about it. And then she realized with a sad jolt that if she did find Captain Sanderson and Mr. Multiple, if it was possible to set sail on the Sawara, they would not be seeing Aunt Tala again. No, nor Tylo, nor Talisman, nor John King. I'll miss them. I'll miss them a whole lot. She had no need to go searching for Captain Sanderson and Mr. Multiple. They turned up at breakfast time, having heard the news of King's arrival. Sanderson was bristling with indignation, ready to denounce the brigands who had hijacked his ship, but had the wind completely taken out of his sails by King's amiable agreement with every word he said.
Indeed, my dear sir, you are entirely right. It was a most disgraceful act of brigandage, piracy. The ship is yours, of course, to take whenever you wish to leave, and any reparation that is in my power to make shall at once be yours.
The ship had a full cargo, stated Captain Sanderson. The cargo was thrown out on the quayside and is now lost, either stolen or destroyed by weather.
What was the cargo?
Tea, sir. The very best Hyson tea and Barbados sugar.
I fear, sir, that we are quite unable to replace those commodities,
the king said in a mild, conciliating tone. Man, it is downright disgraceful. I know I kenned well how it would be. Keep forgetting this is the Scottish captain. Man, it was downright disgraceful. I knew I kenned how it would be.
How can I not persuade you to accept the existing cargo instead?
And what would that be? Demanded Sanderson suspiciously.
A load of pearls from the Odome Reef.
Pearls? I'll thank you not to make game of... Pearls? I'll thank you not to make game of me, sir. It took Sanderson a visit to the ship and evidence of his own eyes to convince him that King was speaking the truth. And then he would accept only half the load, insisting that the value of what remained would even so be worth 10 times what he had lost. The rest of the pearls would be deposited in the Eratu National Treasury. Instead, said Captain Talisman to Herodsfoot, of financing a trip of Manuel's to Europe, which was what he had planned. What will the pearls be used for now? Well, said Talisman, my father intends the few Angrians who are left here to find some other way of earning their living than by cutting down the forest to make new plantations. The forest must be left in peace. Perhaps they can learn to make pearl ornaments. All that must be thought about. Herodsfoot was not very interested in the future of the Angrians. He said, Talisman, dear Talisman, won't you marry me? I do love you so very much. And she answered sadly, No, dear Francis, I cannot marry you. You know very well why I cannot. My future is here with Eratu. You must go back to your King Jamie. Perhaps we shall meet again some day, who knows? But in any case, we shall not suit. There are too many differences between us. I see none. Why, you are talking nonsense. She looked him in the eye. What do you really know of me? A little, no more. And whatever I am, I belong to Eratu. Here I must stay, but an island like this, small, old, complicated, is no place for you, my friend. You must be off. Back to your big, simple world, she smiled. But I love you, he said miserably. So much, I always shall. She shook her head. Return, perhaps in 10 years, in 20 years. Eratu does not change. I shall be here, like Aunt Tala. In 20 years, who knows? We may go riding to the place of stones and find your name still written in the dust. Algernon, Francis, Sebastian, Fortinbras, Carlsluth, Baron Herodsfoot. No, he muttered. Dido rubbed it out. You knew then that I went back. Yes, I knew, she sighed. Look, here comes my father with your little Captain Sanderson. He is looking quite surprised. He finds it hard to understand that pearls are not of much value to us. Meanwhile, Aunt Tala was talking to Dido. Aunt Tala had shown interest, very considerable interest, in the story of Dido's midnight encounter with Mordreda. She became a hyena. That is excellent, really excellent. I am exceedingly obliged to you, my dear child, for this, and I have a notion that it will in time be a solution to all the Angrian problems on Eratu. You mean all the Angrians will turn into hyenas? Would that be a good thing? Dido sounded dubious. Oh, possibly not all hyenas, sting monkeys, turtles, dolphins. They have a long way to go on the cycle of life, poor dears. We shall see. Aunt Tala, how old are you? Older than you think, child. I brought up Aratu, Talisman's mother, and plenty of others, as well as Yorka, Dido. I should intend to be happy if you cared to stay here and take Yorka's place. You have in you already the makings of a Kaniki. It would be a great pleasure to teach you, to set you on your way. Dido was terribly wrung. Oh, thank you, Aunt Tala. That's mighty decent of you, she said earnestly. And I reckon in lots of ways I'd like to stay. I'm real fond of Tylo, and Doc Tally's been better to me than my own sister Penny ever was. But I don't know. I reckon London's the place for me. I got friends there too. I'd best see poor Frankie Herodsfoot gets back with all his games, and try and cheer up King Jamie. But it was right kind of you to ask me, and I won't forget in a hurry, nor all that's happened here. I made rain, she thought. That's a thing to remember. 5 hours later, the Sawara weighed anchor again. Dido had said a sad goodbye to Tylo. She would have given him Yorka's wooden ring, but he would not accept it. Forest folk, we best not have things. Yorka had them. Yorka was too young. She not have them long. But he gave Dido a feather from his memory bird. Keep in your pocket. You dream sometimes of the forest. And how you saved me from those guards. And how you pulled me out of well. Mr. Multiple was very happy to be back on board ship again. Aratu, he thought, seemed a pleasant enough place, but a little boring. He had spent his convalescence after the nurses allowed him out of the hospital at the house of one of Manuel's neighbors, a kind lady who never went anywhere or did anything. It had been restful but tedious. Did you have trouble finding Lord Herodsfoot? He asked. It took you a whole week. Did you get bit by a snake, like poor Cap Sanderson? No, not a snake, but quite a lot of things happened, Dido said vaguely. I'll tell you sometime. She was watching the town of Regina recede rapidly as the Sawara tore up the long harbor on the wings of a fine southerly wind. She could hear the throb of drums on shore, doubtless giving the news of their departure to all the people in the forest. It was the forest people I liked best, thought Dido, though I met so few of them. Herodsfoot came to lean on the rail beside Dido. He looked utterly pale and wretched. She tried to cheer him up by asking about Amboina. Did they play any interesting games there? No, he said gloomily. Nothing worth getting excited about. But he had left a few things there. Results of time he had spent earlier in China, a number of rare rose plants, some greyhounds, and a quintet of horn players. He brightened a little at the thought. He hoped Captain Hughes would have room for them on the Thrush. I reckon he will, said Dido encouragingly. Frankly, I'm going to give you my Persian game cloth, that old Brandywine left me. It strikes me you'll have more use for it than I ever shall. She pulled it out of her pocket and gave it to him. At that, he nearly broke down. Oh, Dido, thank you, it is a treasure, but do you think it was all she, Talisman, thought I was good for, playing games? I begged her to marry me, but she wouldn't. It would be mighty hard, suggested Dido, being married to a Kaniki, someone who was only there half the time. I'm sure you'll find some person in England who suits you better. She hoped that was true. Never, declared Herodsfoot. My heart is broken. I shall never feel the same again. But you will be in London, won't you, Dido? You will keep in touch. I should like to think there is someone to whom I can talk about her. Yes, I'll be in London, agreed Dido. I suppose my mum and dad will still be living in Battersea and plotting away against King Jamie, she thought, but did not say. Herodsfoot hoisted his spectacles off his face to give them a rub, and the right-handed earpiece snapped. He gave a loud wail of dismay. Oh, Dido, see what I have done, and no Yorker, no Talisman to repair them for me. Dido, do you suppose you can manage to mend them? Do you think you will be able to do something? Dido heaved a heavy sigh. The lighthouse on the north tip of Aratu was sliding past them. She looked her last at Regina town, like a handful of white dice at the far end of the harbor. She said, I'll see what I can do. And that is the end of Limbo Lodge. It was kind of a pastiche. It was published in 1999, I guess. So going back quite a long ways in time from the next book that Joan Aiken wrote in the series, which is called The Cuckoo Tree. And I will put that on the pile to read. If you want it to happen faster, then let me know, because I have it handy. I will be happy to go back to Joan Aiken, but our next book will be some Charles Dickens, and I will see you in the next read aloud.